I told you I might cry. This is the cry moment.
Yeah.
I was like, the team did it.
Yeah.
They did it, and they did it in my absence. And that's really what a leader is supposed to be doing. You're supposed to get the team to a point to where they can do everything that needs to be done in your absence.
Every single individual has a story to tell, and they're great stories that need to be heard.
I want every listener to know they have the ability to change the world.
Welcome to the 1720 Podcast.
What's up, Mount Movers? Welcome back to the 1720 Podcast. Based on the pre-recording conversation, this one is going to be awesome with our friend Tony Casagrande.
No pressure.
No pressure whatsoever, my man. We're going to go through his career, his background, and talk through some leadership lessons and guaranteed drop a few dad jokes or some humor along the way.
Yeah.
We're going to have fun.
Well,
No
and I think I said it earlier. I feel like this is the one where I'm just a bystander to y'all's shenanigans, also just based on what you're wearing right now.
We have to breathe every once in a while. When we breathe in that millisecond, jump in with something really, really good, and you'll be fine.
I'll be like, yeah, that's my contributions in the middle.
What's going to be funny is he's going to now dominate it.
Yeah. We're subconsciously like, man, we really got to help. We really got to be quiet here.
Yeah. He's just going to put his finger over both of our mouths like, I got this.
I got a story. I got my own stories to tell here, guys.
Now, why aren't you dressed like us? Did you not get the memo?
Well, okay, so I don't know if you know this or not, but this is actually doesn't have video. So why don't you explain?
Oh, nobody cares? They don't. You can't see through this microphone?
You can't see y'all's ridiculous. So go ahead.
Sure. So being Memorial Day weekend, I had, both my grandparents fought in World War II. I have uncles that were in the military. My grandparents are since passed away. In honor of America, the greatest country on earth, I'm wearing the USA shooter's top that is red, white, and blue with USA. The Chubby's USA 4-inch inseam shorts that are very tight, and I'm sticking to the seat. And I have my classic Air Max Nikes in the red, white, and blue. God bless America.
That's a tight USA fit you got rocking right there. Now, Kev, on the other hand, similarly short shorts. And also,
the thighs out. I'm not as bold as 4-inch inseam, but the thighs are out.
Yeah. Also,
WrestleMania shirt,
but a fly pair of 4s.
Jordan 3s.
Okay. AJ 3s. They looking super fly.
Yep.
But I didn't get the memo. I just wore my work uniform, which is a quarter zip and brown shoes.
You look great.
I know that, but I just okay, in the ditch instantly, but we'll try to bring it back. Classic 1720 kickoff question. Who's Tony?
Is this the elevator pitch thing?
Hit me with it, yeah.
Oh, God, these things are so hard. So I was racking my brain about this, and here's the best I could come up with, in the limited brain power I have. So I am an old school. I already forgot what to say. I am an old school Renaissance man.
Ooh,
okay?
I like it.
So what does that mean? That means I play music. I write poetry. I also can work on cars. I do construction. I run an engineering firm. There aren't like a lot of people like that anymore where I enjoy a lot of things. I enjoy art. I cry too. We were talking earlier about criers, and I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to cry on this thing for you guys. But I enjoy people. I'm fascinated by people. And I just don't meet a lot of people like that anymore where, people tend to be focused these days. Nobody's got the energy. It's hard to try to learn a little bit about everything, but there's that old phrase, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
The second part is far greater than master of one, right? That's the whole.
Yes.
So I'm that guy. If you need something, I've probably done it. Hey, man, I got this going on at the house. What is it? Plumbing? What is it? No problem. I'll be over there with the torch. Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's who I am.
So that's, man, I got a lot of thoughts already.
Oh, my God.
So I catch that jack of all trades, master of none from time to time as well.
Mm-hmm.
But they always, every time someone says that, they forget the second part.
Yep.
They always forget, what is it? Master of...
Far greater than master of one.
Far greater than master of one. And so, man, anyway, I commiserate with that, or not, that's not the right word.
It's a complimenting term. If someone calls you a jack of all trades, that was a badge of honor because it means you had utility. You weren't, one-dimensional. I'm like the Swiss Army knife of men. Dang it, back it up.
Run it.
Elevator speech.
Come on.
Okay, start again. Hey, Tony.
Hey, Tony. Yeah, it's what's
I'm the Swiss Army knife of men.
Dang.
That's way better than the other nonsense you said. Like art and stuff. Like
I think I haven't ever been called Jack of all trades, but I've been called things that start with Jack.
Yeah.
wagon.
That's the one that we can say on this podcast.
Yeah. Okay, so Swiss Army knife of man.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes.
How'd you get there though? Like this is we kind of follow this pattern anyway, but you didn't start out like that.
No. So, my family came to the country, play a violin in the back. Here we go with soft Italian music. My family came to the country in the 1920s. We were immigrants from Italy, all of us, both sides of my family. And so when you come to the country as a non-English speaking person, you tend to be maybe not impoverished, but certainly there's economic challenges. So everyone in my family, all the men and women, were hard workers. I was fortunate enough to know both my grandparents, all of them. And there was always this scrap, this grit, this toughness that I think comes from being an immigrant. So when I was younger, I had one grandfather that was, you would have called him cheap, but what he was smart and thrifty.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was, anything that had to happen, we were doing it. You want to tile a bathroom? This is where I kind of learned all this stuff. We got to pay someone to tile your bathroom. They have no vested interest in the job. That was Andrew Andreoli, who my oldest son is named after. And then on my father's side,
hold on a minute.
Yes,
that's a human's name.
That is
Andrew.
We are as Italian as it can possibly. My name is Tony Mario Casagrande.
Hey, it's a Mario.
It's a Mario. So the other side was Giovanni Casagrande. And that was my father's father. And he was, they used to call him Cast Iron Casagrande. He was hard as a brick, and he did everything too. That's where I kind of get this Swiss Army concept. So from that grandfather, he taught me how to use a pipe wrench. And there was one day where my little kid, I forgot, he was running around and he was all upset because his butt was itching. Okay, and so my nono, we called him Nono. He kind of pulled me aside. He said, "Hey, just go get a little Vaseline. Go get a little Vaseline." So from pipe wrenches to getting an itch out of your butt, that's the kind of man he was. And so I had these great, and so my father and my mother, who were, the progenitors of these folks, they just had these life lessons about grit and doing everything yourself. If I can do it, why would I pay someone else to do it?
Yeah, right.
Doesn't make any sense. So that's kind of how I got to that Swiss Army coined. I'm TMing that thing, by the way. That's trademarked.
Got it.
The Swiss Army knife of men.
So oh man, lots of immigrant questions too here.
Sure.
Didn't come to Texas. Are these like we're thinking like traditional immigration, like Ellis Island? Is this the story?
We came in through Ellis Island and ended up in Detroit, Michigan. So I was born in Dearborn, which is they call it downriver. Not quite the Journey song. It wasn't south of Detroit. It's far south of Detroit than the Journey song, but. Really blue collar background. In Michigan, the automotive industry rules. And my father, I love him. He's got the biggest cojones. Everyone is still up in Michigan except a few family members that have actually followed us to Texas. The OPEC crisis in the 80s hits, and my father, he was a trucker. He did so many different things. He's like, the problem? Michigan. He's like, I'm gonna find the farthest place from this state. And I'm taking my entire family. And at that time, all these people I was talking about, they're alive. So this is a heartbreak. It's like, Bob's leaving.
Yeah.
Roberto's leaving. And Bob was like, yes, I'm leaving. And he like pointed at a map. And thank God he didn't pick California. He picked Texas. And he's like, Plano or Arlington? Plano or Arlington? He called his boss at the time, who he was working for a company called Valcar. They actually truck beef byproducts, which smells bad.
So sounds disgusting.
It's very disgusting. And they had an office kind of down here in North Texas, so we moved to Arlington.
Yeah.
And he put us up, and we had this green Montero or a Monterey, Mercury Monterey, which is an old, one of those long cars that you would imagine an old Italian guy drives, right? Like Vinny, and put us all in the back and drove us down. And we landed in Arlington, Texas.
In
1983.
Okay.
So right there when
you're 4, 5, 6 maybe.
6 years old. I had been to preschool in Michigan, and then everything else, all my formative years, I started kindergarten here in Arlington, Texas.
Do you ever go back ever so often?
We do. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm so nostalgic for Michigan. I had a good childhood. We would drive back every summer. And my father, again, he was a trucker, and my dad I love my dad. he was tougher than hell, but he really tries hard. And so he would put us all in the car, drive us back 22 hours back up to Michigan. And Michigan was like, it's beautiful. It's a shame kind of what's going on in some of the areas because it's so beautiful. Cottages were a thing. You would have a lake house.
Yeah,
but
sure.
not like Texas lake house.
Single wide trailer, good to go.
And so we were on the lake. We were fishing. We were enjoying. There's a big dairy industry, so you could literally go down the street to a creamery, walk through cow poop, and there's an ice creamery where they're making ice cream from their own cow. So it was a kind of a juxtaposition. That was a little rough. You're having mint chocolate chip, and you're like,
but poop.
Yeah, like that doesn't smell right, but. That kind of a childhood, we would go back every summer up until I think it was 18 because we started going away to college and, things kind of changed, but I was there every summer.
I was what you Michigan folk called a FIP. Do you remember?
FIP?
Yeah, I was an Illinois person, but I won't say.
That sounds offensive.
Okay, yeah.
Well, because we would go, there's all sorts of lakes all across Michigan, but in southern Michigan, it's only like an hour and a half drive from the south side of Chicago to get up into these beautiful lakes. And the Sister Lakes was where we went often. Okay. You know that area? Like Round Lake, Big Cricket, Little Cricket.
What's FIP come from? What is that
it's an acronym.
Oh, is the F word?
Yes, it is. Okay. So we
Illinois person? Freaking Illinois person?
Because, we would come on the weekends and invade the lakes and all that sort of stuff. Okay. And with our Chicago mean and ruthlessness. Mm-hmm. So we weren't liked that much.
We weren't, so we would go north. Clarkston was where the cottage that my grandfather Andrew had, and that's the different direction. So I don't think we didn't bump into you guys.
Yeah, no high fives.
I never had to set a FIP straight.
No,
I don't know.
Yeah. Did you ever bump into Chris Rock up there? Not Chris Rock. Kid
Eminem.
Rock. Kid
Eminem
Rock
and Kid Rock definitely lived right down the street from me.
Yeah, northern Michigan. I heard that song once.
Yeah, an 8 Mile. We would go down there. It's funny. I had an uncle who had a harp shop.
Hold on a minute.
No, yes, yeah.
I had an uncle with a harp shop on 8 Mile.
Yes. That's
that's your opener
time.
right there.
That's for another time.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that story later. But I that is a 100% accurate and true statement, and it's flabbergasting, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
okay.
Is that
where do we go
thing?
from there?
I know.
I don't know. Like
all I want to do is dig in that because it's like a vacuum store. Like, are that many people buying harps? Like, is that the only thing that's sold at the harp store?
Him.
Or is that a front?
It was not a front. He was not fronting.
Okay.
You can't front on 8th Street.
8
Mile.
You can't.
Oh, I screwed that up. You can't front on 8th Street. It's Springsteen.
Yeah.
You can't front on 8 Mile. Okay, that's a lyric from Eminem.
Is it really?
No.
Okay.
No. We promised some humor in this. We promised.
Is it really? No. Okay.
Is now the time when I'm supposed to cry?
It would be.
Okay.
Yeah, give it a shot. What do you got?
Let me think about some stories on. Man, I lost a lot of good homies on 8 Mile.
8th Street.
Yeah, on 8th Street. No.
Okay, I can get us out of the ditch. Here we go.
Pull us out of the ditch.
All right. Okay, so you still. Oh, the Great American Road Trip. That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
That pilgrimage home. Mm-hmm. Love it, hate it.
Well, I love it, and we replicated it with my kids in 2019.
Okay.
And so the wife and the kids, we did the big road trip, and we're a road trip people. After this, tomorrow morning we're driving to Florida. We always drive.
Raisha, where are you going?
30A.
Same.
So
Raisha.
Rosemary Beach.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll see you out there.
Oh man, let's hook up because my whole family, my mom and dad will be there.
Same.
It's a lot of fun.
I'm going with my Ashley's parents. We're
my God.
We're actually going on Sunday, but we'll be there all next week. I'll holler.
I love it. That's fantastic. Get my cell phone number.
Yeah.
That's
wild.
So
wild.
We replicated the trip up north, and it was fun. But, there's times in your life where, like, your spouse maybe sees things in you and is like, that's what I married? And there was one of those moments. Oh, God, here we go. This was a tough one. The ride back from Michigan was tough. We were past Indianapolis before my wife and I would even talk again. It was hard. I have an uncle. He's got a lake house, and he's got younger kids, so my cousins are teenagers. And so I hadn't been able to really experience life with these. And I have a young cousin. His name's Kyle. He was graduating. This was like his graduation party from high school. And Kyle looks at me, and he's like, "Cuz, let's play sting pong." Do you guys know what sting pong is? I didn't either.
I'm looking forward to hearing about it,
So
though.
it's ping pong. If you lose a volley, you got to pull your shirt up and turn around, and the other guy gets to whack the ball at you.
Okay.
And nail you, okay? Mm-hmm. So this is clearly a 17, 18-year-old activity, but 42-year-old cousin Tony with, family. Now, this is like extended family came here. And my wife has described this as it was the most mortifying moment. And she's my high school sweetheart. So she's seen all the dirt. She's like, Tony, I had no idea who you were, and I was furious. The Amazon bill was tremendous because she just sat there on the couch while I was playing. Now, by the way, I killed at Sting Pong. I wiped the floor with my cousin. And so I was like, I thought I had a real defining moment in my life.
Yeah, right.
I'm
You did something big.
I am the Sting Pong champion. Comes out, my wife is furious. The drive home wasn't great. I was being a turd in the car. I was screaming and yelling about something. I couldn't remember. Well, I mean, we weren't even talking. So I don't think, unless some things change, and maybe I don't get to play Sting Pong, the road trip to Michigan, that might have been a one and done.
Yeah,
so
we're flying.
Probably going to be flying from here on out.
So was it the Sting Pong that set her off, or was it some
Sting Pong
other...
set her off, and then in the car, there was some drinking at the Sting Pong. And I do believe I was a ungentlemanly character in the car. My wife has been the family designated driver since she was 17. She doesn't drink, and everyone else does. And she was driving home on a dark Michigan highway. That's an Eagles song, isn't it? No, on a dark desert highway. Sorry, that's Hotel California.
We'll cut that out. Don't worry.
She was driving home on a dark, and the roads always suck. They're always under construction. And I was just being an ass. I can't, something was said, and I just was screaming and yelling from the back of the car. And so, in hindsight, I really had to look inside, and I was like, "What was going on with me?" Because after I relived the story to myself, I was like, "Man, I'm kind of lucky she forgave me."
Oh gosh.
And I'm like, and I look at her, I'm like, I deserved every bit of that, and I was in the hot seat. I mean, it was bad, but I deserved it. So that's what I think ultimately did it. And my wife was throwing around the expletives like, I have never seen this side of you. And so, you just have those moments. It was I think the nostalgia leaving Michigan, it kind of reminded me of when I was a kid, when we would have to leave, that was always the worst day. And so I think that might be where that angst came from and why I was such a turd that day. We're past it.
Yeah.
We're good. But
Not to mention the adrenaline from Sting Pong. Like
Right?
that's the icing on the cake.
I was crestfallen. I thought I was going to win something, and I ended up losing big.
Yeah.
There's this. It's a country song while we're on lyrics. It's
Sure.
like you're always 17 in your hometown.
Yeah.
You know that song? I mean, it's
Yeah.
not exactly what you're saying, but the gist of like the reminiscent nature of being in those childhood places and that sort of like emotional mishmash. Like I mean, I get what you're saying.
Yep.
It's weird. Yep. So okay, high school sweetheart.
Yep.
Tell me that story.
So again, my father, thank you, Dad, Robert Mario Casagrande.
Hey, it's also a Mario.
Yeah, Roberto. Thank you for bringing us to Arlington because I met my wife in high school. And I was the football guy. She was the cheerleader. My wife is Asian. And so she had a real unique look. I mean, she's gorgeous to me. I was like, my God, who is that girl? And I would see her kind of walk in the hallways, and the cheerleaders would practice when we were practicing. So they would be running the track, and I was a real, snarky guy. And I remember screaming to her, "Hey, Danielle, this Friday, I know it, we're going out. Hey, Danielle, this Friday." And I feel like I wore her down. She was like,
Oh, this wasn't a one-time thing. You do this every week.
This is every week. And we had Latin class, but she was the period before me. And so I would purposefully figure out when she'd evacuate the class, where she was walking. And I was always that, walking right by her. Because, I was...
Again?
Yep. I was like, what a coincidence. This is meant to be. And our first date was Boston Market.
Yeah.
Because their mac and cheese then was fantastic. And the rest is history. That's it. Boston Market sealed the deal.
I love that.
She's like, oh, wow, this is delicious.
She really liked the lifestyle she was getting into. She was like, fast casual. I dig this guy,
I think in next year's TEXO board retreat, we're going to put an agenda section that's just called Story Time with Uncle Tony.
Oh, man.
God, I've got tons of them. I'm sorry, guys. Am I talking too much?
No, this is awesome.
You're supposed to.
Okay, good.
You're literally the guest.
It's my job to talk a lot?
Yes. Check.
No problem.
Check. Oh man, this is so scatter shooting with Uncle Tony here. I don't even know where to go.
Well, now we got a high school in Arlington.
Yes.
Eventually, you make your way to SMU,
Yes.
but something calls your name to go there. You obviously have some pretty decent grades to get in.
I don't know about that, Kevin. So as I was reading this prep, there's these moments where you would think that a guy like me, and I'm not blowing my own horn, but I guess I am a little bit.
I'll do it for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Had some kind of positive defining moment. My childhood from puberty until now has been quite possibly the most negative defining moments because of my own stupidity. I wrote down rebel. I've been called a contrarian. I was having trouble fitting into the world.
Yeah.
And I was very demonstrative. I didn't have mentors because I despised authority. I was really the kind of kid, we were talking earlier about ADHD. I was an ADHD kid, and, the world does not appreciate ADHD kids. It's getting better now.
Yeah.
Where they're like, hey, this is a special skill. I don't know if I'd call it a superpower, but, because it's like, who would pick, we're handing out superpowers. Okay, you get to fly.
Yeah.
You get to be strong, and you can't pay attention and focus.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. My God, this is great. Where's my costume, right?
Yeah. Well, you could fly. Loser.
Yeah,
Loser.
yeah. I can't pay attention to anything. So my whole life, those defining moments were me getting in trouble, learning a hard lesson. I don't know if I'd go as far as I was a juvenile delinquent, but it was pretty close. Pretty close. So,
like juvenile delinquent, like you're thinking we had run-ins with.
I had run-ins with the law.
Okay, I was just figuring out how far that authoritarian.
It was the authoritarian complex, and I had what I've come to understand is I still suffer from low self-esteem. If you ever kind of look at people that are real outgoing and maybe have all these social skills that someone would say, my God, that person is outgoing and gregarious, and I just love it. Often stems from a way to get around anxiety about not fitting in because you ultimately have low self-esteem. And so I would be demonstrative. I was the guy mooning people out of the back of the bus. Suspension. I was the guy telling funny jokes in school. Suspension.
Mm-hmm.
And what I ultimately learned was who was suffering? Nobody really. It's not like these guys would go to war with me.
Nope.
They would. And in fact, if it was me and another guy getting in trouble, they would narc me out.
Yeah.
And so I ultimately learned, I was like, look, this behavior is not working. I've got to do things that are better for me. And so kind of cut that aspect out. But that's what I learned growing up. And it was hard. I mean, I was in kid court is what they called it. I was a kid court guy, and I had to do my time. It wasn't on the inside.
Okay.
I didn't have a get hard moment, but I certainly learned, you really gotta be smart about the decisions you make.
Oh yeah.
When did you flip that switch? What
Yeah.
year in high school? Or was it high school? Like what to
it
get
was
to
2001, and I think I was, because I got in trouble at So you were asking how I got to SMU. I'm sorry. That was where you were asking. My brilliant father, he saw an ad in a newspaper. He was a cabinet builder when we were here in Texas. And he ran his own company called Casagrande Construction. Great name. And he saw an ad in a paper that SMU was hiring a shop manager. And they had, my folks, we did okay, but we didn't have SMU money. So he did some research and learned that if you work at SMU, your children get a tuition benefit.
Mm-hmm.
He also learned that he gets a tuition benefit. So he went to work for SMU. And I was the kind of kid, I didn't care about college. I was a football player. I was like, we're going to win state. I'm going to date my high school, cheerleader girlfriend. My parents twisted my arm.
Yeah.
My wife, one of the first stories she remembers of me was me sleeping through the ACT. Do you guys know what the ACT, the SCT,
Yes,
ACT scores?
Yes.
It was a Saturday after a football game.
Oh gosh.
And she's like, Tony, they read the roll, and she was Chu and I was Casagrande, so we were close. And she's like, I saw you just put your name on the paper, put your head down. And she's like, what is this guy? So I couldn't have cared less about academics. But my mother and father, I know, right, Kevin? You're like looking at me like, what is this guy?
No, I'm not. I'm saying we have identical stories. I fell asleep during my ACT.
Did you really?
Yeah. So I had to take it a
High
second
five
time.
on that one.
Yeah.
That's why we're so great. We're so great.
So
my parents
fell asleep.
because he fell asleep. Yeah. So my parents, were like, "Did your father change his career, you ding dong, so you could go to SMU?" So I buckled down. High school back then wasn't hard. Maybe there were AP courses. There weren't. So I think I had like a 3.8 or 4. I don't know what I had. But I had to go and retake this ACT. I fortunately got a high enough score. I think I got a 31 or something, which is good.
Super
I guess.
high.
Super.
And
Yeah.
36 is perfect.
Is that what it is? So I got into SMU. My wife went to Baylor. I got into Baylor. So what do I tell my parents? I'm going to Baylor.
See you, Dad.
And my
And your
parents
dad's
are like,
no, you're not.
no, you're going to SMU. So my father then also went to SMU too. He got 2 master's degrees from SMU when he was working there. So that's ultimately how. That was a long way to get to how did I
Fantastic.
get to SMU.
That's a great way to get there, though.
Yeah.
I could have told it shorter.
No, it was
Okay, good.
perfect.
There you go.
Give me the short version just for fun. Let me try it. My dad got a job there, so it was cheaper, and I went.
Bang.
How about that?
That's boring.
That's boring.
Cut out all the other crap.
Your
and just
version,
go right
your
there.
version's way better than my stupid version.
Gosh, that's funny.
Yeah. Okay. So, girlfriend at Baylor, you're at SMU, and this is, I'm guessing you're my age, so this is circa 97 to 01.
Yeah, I'm 45.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'd be 45. Yeah, so 96 to 2000, something like that for you.
Yep.
At SMU.
Yep.
Grind that out.
Fun time. Went to school thinking I was going to be a doctor. Started in biology. Had a roommate. This is shout out to Chris Wright. Chris Wright, my roommate, who told this joke. I wanted to be an engineer because I wanted to drive trains, right? And that's a classic engineer joke. We were in I was going to get a minor in mechanical engineering, so we were in intro, and I just bumped into him. I'm like, who the hell are you? And his grandfather worked for Case IH, so he's a big engineer. And Chris, his dad was a doctor. Chris convinced me to basically be an engineer. And so thank you, Chris Wright. It's hard to be a doctor. The guys that made it, and I had buddies that ended up making it, they were studying in college.
For 12 years.
It was bonkers how much, because you got to get straight A's.
Yeah.
In engineering, it's not that old joke of what do you call the guy that graduates last from engineering class, engineer.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you get a nice solid B, there's tests that you have to take. You have to get licensed. So they weed that. If you're an idiot, you're not going to be an engineer. But so I fortunately kind of switched midstream. I finished my degree in biology, but I got about 2/3 of a degree in mechanical engineering as well. And got in trouble and screwing around with friends. I got remanded to community service at SMU. Guys, I'm telling you, I was a bad kid. And so I was like, I'll go work where my dad works. So I was organizing plans as my community service. And there's an old engineer by the name of Larry Halpert, who, if anyone works at SMU, they know Larry Halpert. He's fantastic. He's the engineer's engineer. I met him, and I was like, Larry, this is junior year. I was like, man, I think I need to get an internship. And Larry's like, no problem. A couple companies that were working on site, and one of the companies was Campos Engineering. And so Larry introduced me to Campos Engineering, and I was the first intern at Campos Engineering.
Oh, that's a cool
Yep.
stat.
And the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. Bada bing.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Okay.
I should lace more Italianisms in here, shouldn't I?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I
Mamma mia, I got in trouble.
I gotta represent a little bit better. Sorry.
Mamma mia. I've given you my best. Hey, it's a Mario twice.
Well, you guys see, Italians. It's not just Super Mario. I swear. But I like
whatever.
He was our god until this next movie, Chris Pratt. No accent whatsoever. His family. Did you guys see the new Mario movie?
No.
The family was more Italian than Chris Pratt in the thing. Luigi kept some of the Italian, affections, but they whitewashed Mario.
Unbelievable.
What the heck?
Yeah.
That's all we had. Now all we got is the mafia again.
Yeah.
Godfather references.
Which is diluting.
Yeah.
Well, that's something.
Yeah.
I mean, we could spend some time there, but Godfather references aren't terrible, and the mafia is very interesting.
That's
so,
right. It's fascinating.
Have you seen that Netflix show about the mafia in New York and Giuliani breaking up the families and stuff?
I didn't.
Yeah, public service
Good stuff.
announcement. Yeah, go watch it. It's like a 3-part miniseries on all of it. And
I like it.
It's still alive and well out there. Not as
Very.
dominant as it used to be,
Mhm.
but Mafia is alive and well in New York City.
Oh, boy.
very interesting.
Oh
Yeah.
boy, not so much here in Texas.
No.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they
That's what they
would
want you to believe.
think,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm blowing my deep cover here, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh
Yeah.
no, it's you.
Yeah,
You're in
yeah,
it.
You guys better watch out.
Okay, we're
You
all done.
guys.
There it is. There it is.
So with Campos Engineering,
Yes.
Is my stalking correct? It sounds like it from what you just said. Since you were the first intern and it slid through SMU.
Yep.
That's the only place you've worked professionally.
Yep.
One stop,
Yep.
which is a total rarity now.
I was a bouncer in college. Is that a professional career?
No.
Okay.
Nice try. But
Yeah. Okay. So
Dude,
I just
we
want
gotta
to
go to lunch someday
It's
and
not
just-
the only job that I've had.
We need to
but
compare notes
yeah.
someday.
Oh my gosh, that was fun. But yes, it's
you're the same person. You don't even know it.
Were you a bouncer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever get hit in the head with a bottle?
Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
Yes, I can answer that.
Just the other day at a board meeting, actually. You know, it says something I wasn't supposed to say.
One of the bars that I bounced at, it was the busiest one. I graduated to the busy one.
Yep.
And the front door, you went out pleasantly. The back door was not good.
Yep.
And one time, a guy kept saying a word he shouldn't have said to the cop.
Oh, brother.
And the cop said, if you say that again, I'm going to taser you. And so he shot the gun into this guy and watched him convulse. I'm like, to the police officer, I'm like, should I go back in? He's like, yes, you should.
Yeah.
Because I think he was just getting warmed
Your
up.
job is done here, sir.
Yeah.
We don't need any other witnesses.
No.
At the risk of asking a really dumb question,
Yes.
what's the word you shouldn't have said to the cop?
What's the worst word you could possibly say?
Is it cop related or
No.
is it ethnically, racially charged?
Oh, that's dumb.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. I was like, what could you say? Oh, you're a pig or five. Like I was like, how did
Way
that?
worse.
Yeah. Okay, that story
To
makes
his
more.
face repeatedly.
Yes.
Ugh,
yeah.
dumb.
That story makes more sense.
And I was, and so for him, I was like, so you don't have a witness. I'm going to go back inside.
Oof.
But the back door, like you usually got roughed up. You did something bad if you went through the back door, and he
Oh,
was
my gosh.
double, triple stamped on bad.
Oof. Well, you guys can work that out.
Oh yeah, I
Compare
can't
those
wait for a
notes.
lunch.
Let's go
man.
drink a beer. I'll tell you some of the stories. And I had the look. I was a greaser. I had long hair pulled back into a tight little ponytail. I would wear the jeans with the black t-shirts. I exercised a lot in my life, and I looked much fitter back then. I had the look. I mean, it was like not Roadhouse, not as good enough to look like Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, but the look was there, man. We didn't have phones back then, so there aren't a lot of pictures. I wish I had a picture of Guido Tony at the front of Lulu's Bait Shack on McKinney Avenue, checking IDs for SMU guys trying to sneak in with fake IDs. I was like, I know you go to school with me. I know you're not 21. Come on, dude. And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So there's no photographic evidence of this fellow.
I don't think I have a single picture in my greaseball phase.
Mm.
And it's probably for the best.
I mean,
Probably for the
Probably
best.
so.
We're just going to let that die. It's not like that's going to be commemorated in eternity digitally, right?
No, if phones were prominent in that time, I would not be sitting before you.
It'd be unhireable.
100%.
Felonies.
Yes.
okay. Let's see. I can do it. Shovel out, get out of the ditch.
Yeah,
again.
where were
Yeah.
we? We were talking about Campos Engineering.
That's
Yes,
right. Started
yes.
from the bottom. Now I'm here. That's
You
some
like
sort
that?
of tagline you have. Is that on
Gosh.
LinkedIn?
And, so we were doing a career thing. You go to the schools. It wasn't for Foundation at the time. It was for another organization. We were at some high school, and their high school wanted to interview me after the thing because you see me, I'm like, hey, kind of the fun guy. And I was trying to be hip. So it's a Drake line. That's from a Drake song. And I don't even like Drake. And so she was like, oh, how'd you do it? What's up? And I was like, man, all I like to say is started from the bottom. Now I'm here. And I thought I was cool.
You got crickets.
Yeah, dude. And she was like, huh? I said, well, back the truck up. I worked really hard and I really studied hard and I really listened to my teachers and, to some BS story. And that's where it stuck. So I don't know. I guess I put it on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
It's got to be in my thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like your mission is to love and care
Yep.
for people. It's that
It's
one
in
and that
it's
one.
in the body of
Yeah.
it's got to be in the body of my story.
I would say hold on to that one
Sure.
because I think we joke about some of these bullet points that I've written down about your come up,
Yep.
but then to go to SMU biology and mechanical engineering, that's not common.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, your true testimony can benefit from in that TEXO Foundation realm.
Yeah.
To hear like, okay, I've been a knucklehead for a little while, but I could freaking snap out of it.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people that are on that trajectory that you can knock them back in the lane.
Yeah, you ultimately grow up. I mean, my mother used to always say it to me, Tony, you need to grow up. And when you're a kid, you're like, you're not cool. I'm not growing up. But you do. You just have to say, well, what do you want out of life?
Yeah.
And I at Campos, at the time, I had a real ball buster boss who was an excellent engineer. You couldn't get away with anything. I mean, you started at 7:30. You were at it was 6:45. One of those guys. He was an old GE guy. No, that was a different guy, but who was kind of the same way. This was a different guy than that guy. He really taught me how to be an engineer, and he taught me how to work hard because he wouldn't let you not work hard. There's people nowadays are so worried about failure and all these, I got all these imposter syndromes, all these things. They didn't have any of that stuff back then. If you were a screw up and you didn't do well, you had a boss that chewed your ass out, right?
Right.
Well, this was that boss. And so he would always say, if you had any insecurities, he's like, hey, I won't let you fail. I won't let you fail, because he'd be up your ass making sure you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned from him as I grew in the industry. I'm opportunistic, I guess, is what's one trait about me that maybe differentiates me from other people is I really try to find the opportunity and then I'll go after it. So how that applied at Campos, I just paid attention to the things that the bosses were doing. The person that I was reporting to, what are they doing? Oh, they're good engineers. Okay, check. I can do that. I'm going to get really good at what I do. Oh, they're making client contacts. Okay. Oh, they're booking work. Oh, they're hiring. Oh, they're training and mentoring. Oh, now they're getting into strategy. Oh, now they're thinking about what I need to do next year. And I simply was opportunistic. I said, I can do that. And I had, Joe Campos, the namesake of the company, was there at the time. I had seen, the boss at the time for me, and I kind of saw those guys. I was like the right age. I was 21. My boss was 45. I was like, I did the math. I'm like, oh, he'll be out of here at some point. Joe was maybe 50. I was like, it's only a matter of time for me. And I then saw the pool of competition. This is maybe where my ego helps sometimes. I was telling Kevin earlier that tempering your ego as a leader is necessary, but I don't know if while you're climbing up, a little ego goes a long way. And I was like, I can beat these guys, but I didn't beat them by, being a jerk or competing with them. I beat them by leading. And I didn't realize it while I was doing it, but, my philosophies on what that means, I tried to make everyone else better by, doing the things that they didn't want to do. You talk about engineering, all right? I'm a registered professional engineer. There are maybe, out of 80,000 of us in the United States, maybe, we'll say 1% can have a real meaningful, abstract conversation, really get in deep and communicate. Communication skills, something that, and it's because, you're analytical. So, God blesses us with a lot of things. If you're a super analytical dude or dudette and you're an engineer, God blessed you with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, the blessings always come with a flip side. You're not going to be the most gregarious, you're focused. So I was like, oh, I'll do the talking. Oh, we need to go to a meeting and talk to an owner. Got it. I'll do the talking. Oh, we're in trouble. Oh man, we might have a claim. We got to go talk someone off a ledge. I'll do that. And all my partners, they were happy. They're like, oh, thank God. Thank God Tony's here, because I don't have to deal with that thing that I don't feel comfortable dealing with. And that just got me, to the next level every time. So I was, a technician, then a project lead, then a project manager, then a senior project manager, then a director. And the director was over, a large portion of work for the company that had, business development and all the things he had to do. And then I got the opportunity, people move on, and my boss eventually moved on. And Wesley McVeigh, who was, I was telling Kevin, if I had 50% to do with it, I probably only had 49% to do with it. Wes McVeigh was that 50 to 51. He was my, technical guy. He used to say, if you can book it, I can do it. So he and I had the opportunity to run one of the larger profit centers in the company, and just show what we could do with it. And then, Joe was getting a little older, and it was time to retire. And, there was really no one around that had that kind of leadership skill set and desire. I mean, the big problem for a lot of smaller firms is who would want to buy them. You really got to have brass cojones to want to buy a small firm and see if you can do something with it. And so we did. So around 2015, I was challenged with, this was by Joe. I wanted to be the president of the company. He's like, okay, you got to be the president of the whole company. You can't just be the president of your profit center.
Yeah.
Okay. So he put me in charge of marketing. Okay. So great for me, because I'm kind of a marketing guy, but we had just lost our marketing director. And we had a young Holly Scudder, who you were mentioning earlier that you kind of talk with, was brand spanking new. And we had to go out and like hire, so we had this new team, and it was like a whole new world for me. I'm like, dude, okay, Mr. Engineer, Mr. Kind of do it all. And now I'm basically the director of marketing to get this team. And show that I could build a team that could ultimately market for, we're trying to get out of the low mid market, so we need to be mid market. So I needed to build the team, and 2015 till now has all been that kind of, you're no longer, the engineer. You're no longer, doing the things that you thought you'd be doing. You've got to lead all these people, and you got to be able to lead, different people.
Yeah.
Marketing's totally abstract, right? They're linear thinkers. They might have temperaments that might be a little linear, but it's feelings. It's, and it's all women in that group. So, I was the football player, and women, but I'm telling you, we talk about some things in that group. I'm like one of the gals, and that was that relationship building. So it's, I guess I'm saying it this way because it was a total change.
Yeah.
And that's the point. And I'll stop because I know I'm rambling, is that you have to be willing to do something totally different and uncomfortable because you see the broader importance. And that's, I think, what maybe differentiated myself in Campos and why I was able to get, to where I'm at, because I never shied away from that stuff.
All right, I'm going to draw a story arc over the top, and then I have 3 questions and I'm going to try to lay in here. That idea of, as you grow, you have to start taking on more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is probably felt a little uncomfortable, but also like kind of in your wheelhouse, because you started by saying, I'm the Swiss Army knife,
mm-hmm.
right? And so for all these years, you've been like, I'm the engineer and then tackling the vertical piece of that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get the horizontal piece of it, and now I need to be tipping my toes in all these things,
mm-hmm.
comfortable, uncomfortable? And how does your background help with that?
Yeah, I'm a loyalty guy. So this is another thing that I wanted to bring up. I'm old school. One of the things you guys want to talk about was, why did I stay at Campos Engineering? And I think it's my old school roots. That's that nostalgic, I'm loyal. So if the company's good to me, and even when they're not, I'm sticking around, because I'm tough. I'm like, I can handle that, So I was loyal to each prior position. The hardest leap was leaving the profit center and going into the corporate, because I really felt like I was abandoning my team.
Yeah,
I felt really nostalgic about what we had accomplished. And, the guys are killing it. They doubled it. I think I got that group. We tripled it 10x over the time I was in it. From 2015 until now, they've doubled it again. So it's not like they're having a lot of success. But people management is a very important part of the job. And I always felt like, oh, man, that's what they need me for. These guys need me to be the people manager. And now I got to go do that for someone else. That was the hardest feeling. Going and doing the new thing.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. I just had these longings. And now I put a post on LinkedIn lately that's got some good traction about, my hockey team won the championship. I don't know if you guys read it, but it was this analogy that I missed the game, the championship game. The same time frame, my team, they didn't even make me aware, because the marketing team and the profit center, they were going after these big projects with a big major client. And I was always the client guy, like, we're going to prep and we're going to get this interview and we're going to do it. And these suckers do it all. I don't even know until after the interview. And they did it.
Mm-hmm.
We just found out, we were down in San Antonio for a conference, and we're getting all these calls. They have now booked even more work from that interview. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, that I told you I might cry. This is the cry moment.
Yeah.
I was like, the team did it.
Yeah.
They did it, and they did it in my absence. And that's really what a leader is supposed to be doing. You're supposed to get the team to a point to where they can do everything that needs to be done in your absence.
Yeah.
That is, for some reason, and it is, I don't know that it is unique to small companies, but it's insanely difficult to let the birds out of the nest or whatever, let your kids, like letting go of that, because I don't know how you felt about that, but I could see how it is a double-edged sword, because on one hand you're like, yes. And on the other hand, they didn't need me anymore.
Yep.
And the leadership growth mindset around that is leaning more towards yes, but people stymie their teams down and fail to develop leaders and don't have succession plans when they get frustrated. Like, oh, I need to, next time, that's good. I'm glad y'all went, but next time I need to be in that meeting, right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden people are like,
yep,
I ain't doing it again, man.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So that is an interesting growth paradigm sort of leadership idea.
Yep.
Right there to take away.
And I would it's a combination of trust
and
laziness. And so, yep. So, a good leader, I can't remember who had this quote, but they were like, if I have a tough job, I'm going to find the laziest person I know to do it because they're going to figure out how to do it fast, right? And get it done. Somebody said, someone famous said that. It ain't me. I can't remember, but maybe we Google that and we'll figure that out. But, you have to, I trust people very quickly. That's probably a weakness of mine. I'm a real people person. And you don't have to really earn my trust. I'll immediately trust you.
That's a strength.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
Engineering types do not trust anybody but themselves because they've already figured it out and they know the path and they're intractable and they don't like change. And so that's where most people fail is they can't let go. Now, when you let go, you have to be willing to accept an outcome that maybe wouldn't be the same if you did it.
Yeah.
And so I lack any perfectionistics, none. I am the least perfectionistic guy ever. So I don't care if it comes out differently. So if you combine those two things, you got someone that is a great delegator, a great leader. There are some challenges because sometimes the wheels come off. So then you have to be able to stay on top of things and jump back in if things go awry. And I was always confident that I could do that. So I never felt like if I let go and let someone else win, and let's say they burn down the barn, dude, I got the fire truck, no problem.
Yeah.
We'll clean up the barn. My mom used to always say, there's nothing that could get so dirty it can't be cleaned.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's the way I think about it. It's like they can screw it up. We'll fix it.
Right.
And that was from my boss. I won't let you fail.
Yeah. That's a liberating thought to have.
Yep.
Like confident enough in your ability to fix it that you're not worried about it being messed up.
Yep.
Right. And that allows you to like separate from, whereas other people feel so like the outcome has to be tight because we can't afford to fail. So I'm going to lean in, I'm going to crank the screws, I'm going to be overbearing, I'm going to micromanage. And then people again are like, man, peace out.
I would turn that on its head to say they can't manage the consequences of failure is why people so tightly, we were talking about control enthusiasts, right?
Yeah.
My opinion, one man's opinion, the reason people can't handle letting go is they can't handle the consequences of letting go. They haven't thought about that because it's an anomaly.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen. So if you don't know what's going to happen and you don't have that kind of jack of all trades mentality, you don't know how to respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
So do the project the way I said, and I can guarantee the outcome. My anxieties are satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
Do it your way and something gets screwed up and now I got to make a phone call. Boy, a lot of people just can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's super rare to be able to see a 20+ year runway at your first company that takes incredible patience, loyalty, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And at what point did somebody come on board with that to stoke that fire for you? Because I would have a feeling even with patience and loyalty, 5 years in, 10 years in, you kind of, maybe you don't, but you lose sight of like, is that runway still there? Do I remember the runway? Who starts helping you? Because your last name is not Campos, to take over the next generation of that. Like, when along those lines did that come on board? Yeah.
So, I had a lot of help from Doug, who was the gentleman that I'm speaking of that was the first boss, who I think, maybe didn't, maybe he did see a path. He certainly wasn't. It's not the way it is now where, you got to give someone a script and be like, you're a leader. Here's how to do it. It was a lot of, trial by fire ordeal. I think if I really think about it, it was Joe Sr. who, he needed an exit. He had been running this company, started in 1983. I was 6. I came to the state. He's already starting his company. And I think he saw in me that I had what it took. And so I would meet with Joe, I think it was weekly, and we would just talk. And a lot of it was just philosophy. He was checking me out.
Yeah.
He was seeing if I had what it took to really ultimately get this company to the next stage. And so I give him all the credit. I was at that time very contrarian still, hot-headed, youthful, stupid in a lot of ways, unaware of the effect I had on people because I was a hard charger. I was like, oh, good, this guy, you're no good. We need A players and all that stuff. And that stuff, it's passé. That crap doesn't fly anymore. You got to be nurturing. You got to be like a mama bird and, really help people. He helped me through that. So I would say 2015 till, 2023, I'm almost a changed person. And I give all the credit to Joe Campos.
That's awesome. And something that you said offline that I'll bring up is,
Sure.
which was way ahead of its time because it's more prominent now, but the leadership principle of what's the plan versus here's the plan.
Yep.
Like, which is alive and well in Campos to this day.
Yep. He taught us, we're a minority-owned firm. So I do not run Campos Engineering. I am a part owner. There's 3 owners. Joseph Campos, who's Joe's son. It wasn't a family business, but it just kind of worked out this way. He's an engineer. He's our innovation guy. The guy's a genius. I was telling Kevin, you got to get him on here to talk innovation because he's so good. Technically, Joseph Campos, and functionally, it's his company. Wesley and I are minority partners in the thing, but
Sure.
It was the same deal with Joe Sr. But he never ran it that way, and that's probably any minority-owned firms out there and any small companies. Just because you're the majority shareholder doesn't mean you have all the right ideas. Get a team together, and that's what Joe did, and so that's what we do. So Joe would be in a room, and I just remember he was good when he was talking. He was great when he was quiet. And we'd have an issue or, we do a lot of planning, a lot of strategy, and he would give us the answers. He'd be like, here's, it'd make us even come up with the issues. What are the issues? And kind of get it out of you. All right, well, what are you guys going to do? And that's the same way we run it now. I have the most experience in the company, so I'm a real asset to the team. And, Joseph is a younger guy, and he's fantastic. They kind of dyed in the wool, because he had his father. Joe's still alive, so I'm not talking about the guy post-mortem here. And so he really, it might sound nostalgic, like, oh, Joe Campos, oh my gosh, the guy. He's still with us. So, but Joseph needs help just like anyone else.
Yeah.
You can't run a major organization on one person's ideas. If you do, it's going to be stagnated. It's not going to go well. So people have freedom to make decisions.
Yeah.
If I need to correct them or help them make a different decision, I make a suggestion. I try to influence. Hey, I don't understand that. Why are we doing that? I still don't get it. Are you sure that that's what we want to do? Yeah, that's what we know. All right, let me help you. Let's think through the consequences. Okay, if that goes bad, here's something. Were you prepared for that? And that's when people can kind of think and start saying, no, I wasn't prepared. I was like, do you want that? No, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should try something different.
Yeah. I do have some experience. Here's a bit of a crystal ball.
Yep. But never dictatorial. I refuse to dictate. And that's probably Joseph's the same way. He has functional control of the company all the way through. He could do anything he wants at any time. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, Joseph, you can do anything you want all the time. But don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
You got a team. You got a great team. They're way smarter than me. They might not be smarter than him. He's really smart. But my team is totally smarter than I am, and I just let them know. I'm like, guys, I'm here to facilitate. I'm here to help. I'll fight your battles. I'll fall on the sword if I need to. I'll call the banks. I'll talk to the lawyers. All the stuff that's the same role. All the stuff that people do not want to do.
Yeah. And is it Joseph's role, the CIO, is that unique in your sphere?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that makes Campos different, and, everyone's got this is why we're different. People have always spoken about innovation, right? They say, man, we're innovative. And then you look at what they're doing and you're like, no, changing from black pen to a blue pen, that is not innovation, right? But we actually do innovation. 2014, I think, is when we first started with Joseph. He actually owned a different company. And we hired his company to help us revolutionize. We have a real fear in the MEP industry that computers are going to replace us. With Autodesk and Revit and all these things, it's all math, guys. It's all math. Yes, there's some, artistry to it, but you could push a button and a computer can design the MEP in a building, right?
Yeah.
They can coordinate, study. So we were like, guys, we're probably 10 years out from major changes in the industry. We need to get ahead of it and differentiate ourselves, maybe come up with a new product line, come up with a new service. And so Joseph came in and we just looked at everything, from every process, everything. One of the things, we do a lot of testing and balancing. There's a lot of equipment requirement. The equipment's expensive. It's very expensive. So we're like, Joseph, can you build flow hood? It's called a bolometer. It doesn't matter. Test and balance guys out there, you're going to love this, but everyone else is like, what's a bolometer? He built a bolometer. We have 80 of them. The cost of building your own bolometer, 80 of them, is the same as buying 10.
Oh, wow.
So, and we cornered the market. we can throw more of these out on a project. We have a real big thing going on right now with data centers. And I don't know if you've been at a data center lately. The way they heat and cool them, they have these huge air handlers. That's the air conditioner, right? And the way you used to have to measure them is with a little 14 by 14. They call it a flow grid. It generates a pressure differential. Engineers, you're going to love this. It goes into a manometer, calculates feet per minute, tells you the velocity. Well, I mean, we're talking 5-6 sheets. What's that? That's 300, 400 square feet of readings. So so it takes a long time.
Yeah.
We had a client that was like, we've got this project that needs to be done quick. What can you do for us? We're like third tier on projects like this. We're a tab contractor.
Right.
What third tier is coming up with new stuff? Joseph went in and we have another technology that he created that he kind of bastardized and created what we call the flow monster, which is a giant, almost like Tinker Toy collection of these grids with individual sensors that's on a crane, a hoist, because it's kind of heavy. And we can measure these large air handlers in 3 readings instead of 120. Right? And we are patent pending. We're going to try to get this thing kind of, really patent. Nobody's doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Especially as a third tier. So that's what you'd asked about the CIO. This is what Joseph brings to the table. And we're doing things that other people are not doing at our level. Maybe some of the big guys, you look at us versus, just thinking of big GCs. I don't want to say any names. I don't want to embarrass anyone, but they got the money. They're making their own software package and stuff like that, but we're kind of hanging in there.
Yeah.
Toe to toe.
Totally.
So that's what we're doing, man. And I think it makes us different.
It's a force multiplier. One person can do a lot more, and we know that people are hard to come by. Yep. And you're able to just grab market share because you're the only one doing it.
Yep.
That's innovation, not red, black, or blue
right.
pens.
Yeah. I always use that analogy because you read it. You read it everywhere. You're like, oh, we're innovative. I'm like, what have you done that's innovative? Oh, man, we got a new paper supplier.
Dunder Mifflin's killing it.
Yeah, we really innovated there. And so we kind of have that culture so that people, in the group, if they're doing something and they're like, man, this is repetitive. Can I do this faster? They're walking upstairs, they're hooking up with Joseph, and we're coming up with a new, faster way to do it.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of questions there too, maybe for offline. But when we started talking about innovation, my mind instantly went to 2023 ideas of like AI overlays and software packages and stuff like this. And then you proceeded to talk about tools and techniques from an innovation perspective, which is different. It kind of blew my mind. But it seems like innovating around like that software stuff, by the time you figure it out, it's too late. Like it's already, and around the hardware spaces, maybe not so much, right? Like that's true innovation. But what's your like failure rate on this? Like
big time.
Yeah,
big
it has
time.
to be. Okay.
When we first started, we did this whole brainstorming, coming up with ideas. I think we had like 150 ideas. That got pared down to probably 7. Of the 7, I think maybe 1 made it out.
Okay.
Of the 6 that failed, we simply cannibalized whatever we did on those and tried to apply it to something else. We have another product that we came up with, on a big project. We do HVAC. That's what we do, air conditioning, right? Everything's computer controlled. Mm-hmm. It's when it's moving, it's not moving. You can control it, except exhaust fans. For some reason, unless you're on a laboratory, people don't really want to spend a lot of money on exhaust fans. Well, what that means, and they're belt driven or they're direct drive, they're all over a facility. If you have a large hospital facility or you have something, a large campus facility, you got these fans everywhere. It's a maintenance nightmare because a belt throws, they burn up all the time. They're like tin cans. They're made of aluminum. Mm-hmm. I love you guys that cook in Green Hex, so I'm not dissing your stuff, but they just they fail.
Yeah.
So one of the ideas we had was how can we help facilities maintain and manage these fans? So Joseph took an idea from, we were doing these remote sensors, and we created a product. We call it Fan SOS. And what we do is we very simply on our own network, we go out and like in 3 minutes, we can basically drill a hole and put this module on every fan. And what it'll do is, and we have an app. Joseph created the app. This guy's a genius. And you basically give all the information to the app, geolocate the fan, and then you simply put a phone number in. Who needs to know when this fan is not running?
Oh, yeah.
And so it's immediate real-time failure analysis. And, nobody's doing that. You're not going to find a single sensor on an exhaust fan unless it's a laboratory fan. You have some hospitals, clean and soiled utility, central sterile supply, isolation rooms, infectious isolation rooms.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know if the fan's running.
Oh.
And they all have these alarms, and you'll have a pressure differential issue. And, think of with COVID, infectious isolation was very important for COVID. The door's beeping, and the facility guy's got to send some poor guy up to the roof. Where's a EF25? I don't know.
Right.
And they got to find the fan, and then the belt's off. So then they got to go back down to the shop, pick the right belt. The belts are often disintegrated, so you can't even read the damn belt number on the thing. Pray to God they get it back up and running. That's just an example of, nobody's thinking about that kind of stuff. Fans are like the junk of HVAC. They have a huge, important role in a building with pressurization and ventilation, but nobody monitors them. It's too expensive.
Right. And now we have an innovative solution to economically monitor them and provide this real-time feedback to Brad, who needs to go fix it when it goes down.
Yep. Yeah, he gets off his mule and
Brad and his mule. Brad actually installs all those sensors for us. That mule can climb a ladder. Did you know that?
Dang.
Yep.
It's innovative.
It's rough.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Is Brad a mule? Or is
I thought Brad owned the mule.
Yeah, okay. The way you said it made me think maybe you had trained a mule to innovate.
Named Brad.
Yeah,
it's actually a Sicilian donkey. Not a mule, because Italian.
Yeah.
So
the Christmas donkey. You know that song?
Yeah, it's Dominic the donkey.
Wow, that is a triple deep cut we just ended up on right there. All right, I got one more innovation question, then we can get out of here. Okay, so I'm a intern for you guys, and I have a great idea.
Yep.
But I don't know what to do with it. Like, do you guys have a process of like, hey, great ideas, you write them on a piece of paper, you fold it half and put it in this box, and then we review it everything? What's that look like?
So we have that process, but what Joseph does that's excellent is FaceTime. Not the app. He goes down, and culturally everybody knows. When you're an intern, you get oriented in our company, and we have a great intern program still. And they know who he is, and we talk about that. We actually had an innovation intern who now is going to be coming on full time. So I think, you got to win the culture war on that, and you got to get everyone realizing and singing the same song that, hey, we want innovative thoughts. If you see something we can do faster, his office is right around the door. Joseph is a sweet guy, a real nice guy to talk to. He'll talk to you about whatever the heck you want. So someone comes in, oh, come on in. What do you got? Oh, I was thinking about this. That's a great idea. You really foster it. So that's how we get it through the culture.
So there's no like processor. It's just like, hey, you got a great idea. Yep. Go grab Joseph, chat it out. Yep. So we'll vet it like that. Yeah.
Processes are a help, and they're a hindrance. I think with innovation, it kind of needs to be kind of pirated, kind of scurvy, just kind of, hey, I got an idea. Don't put that on paper. We don't need a cost benefit analysis at this point. Let's see if we got some legs on that thing.
Yeah.
Like it. Okay.
Your partner, Wes, you said something before we got on air that I thought was pretty profound. Be a conscious incompetent.
Yeah.
So what does that mean with your partner knowing self?
Yeah, and Wesley, I did not call you a conscious incompetent. I swear. It was this point. It was this point. So my ability to do what I've done is because I focused on my strengths and I delegated, or I found partnership for my weaknesses.
Right.
I was a conscious incompetent. I think this comes from Stephen Covey. So I'm totally ripping Stephen Covey off. Stephen Covey, I believe he's still alive. Thank you very much. The book's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah, good thing you hat tipped him, because he's definitely listening.
Yeah, he's definitely listening. I know. Here we go. Shout out. Was that too loud? Sorry.
No.
So that is really human. That's the challenge of humanity.
Totally.
Ego gets in the way. Our ego tells us we're good at everything. We were born perfect. If you're having a bad day, it's imposter syndrome. If somebody challenges you, they're toxic. This world is teaching people how to be egomaniacs who can't see their own weaknesses. Wesley McVeigh is a huge part of why I'm, sitting here today. The company would not be where it is without Wes, because where I was this guy who could go out and do the talking and do the selling and do all those things, he's the engineer's engineer. He always used to say, if you book it, I'll figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And so we do that in the company. We try to find these partnerships where I'm not good at the organizational stuff. I did our fee forecasting. I'll never forget this. You have hundreds of projects. You got to figure out how much you can bill on them, right? I was responsible for the fee. We call it a fee forecast. I was responsible for the fee forecast. It's a huge spreadsheet. Numbers, for exactly 1 week. And I did a copy and paste error or something. And, one
foul tip the whole thing.
Oh, my God. And Wes McVeigh, he's a funny guy. He'll be furious with you, but he's not a demonstrative guy. He kind of keeps it all inside. He just was like, you're an idiot. You effed up the whole fee forecast and you march on, a small company, you march on your billings. And he's like, and now I got to take it back and I got to figure out how to fix all this crap. And I just learned that one always stuck with me because what was I doing? I was trying to do something I'm not good at.
Yeah.
What was I doing to Wes? Here's a guy that's perfect at it, could probably teach someone how to do it. I was invalidating his opportunity for success. So I said, you know what, Wes? It's almost like the Tom Sawyer thing or Huck Finn. You're right, Wes. You need to whitewash that fence. And I'm just going to sit back, and say, have at it. And we've always had that relationship. And he knows where he's not good, and I know where I'm good. Joseph is the same way. And it makes a really effective team.
I love that expression, be a conscious and competent. We learned that in the EDP retreat, not strengths versus weaknesses, but where we complement each other, which ends up being strengths and weaknesses. And we call that accidental genius. We didn't know that going into this journey.
No.
But the fact that he knows all this and wants to hide the cables, I couldn't care less, can chop this thing up in probably 1/6 of the time I can chop it up. And then I do my thing. It just makes it effective.
Yep. Let people succeed.
And also, I always agree with all of that.
Yeah.
Period, full stop. I also wrestle with the idea of no, I know I'm not good at that thing. Should I be trying to get better at it? Or do I just concede, at this juncture, I don't need to be better at that thing because I've assembled a team to complement my skill set, and that stasis is okay.
Yep.
And so I don't know, you might have some thoughts on it, but just personally, I never really know what to do with it because I have a few things at work right now. I'm like, I really don't know how to do that thing very well. We have a team that does it, but do I need to work on it? I don't know.
If it's in your core skill set necessary, you probably should brush up on it. If it's something that you only need to be like a witness or maybe a supervisor, you only need to know kind of how it is. You don't need to see the sausage being made.
Right.
That's the way I look at it. And at this state, I'm not an old guy, but I'm old enough to know I don't try to do the things. I may give it a shot. If it ain't working or I know it's misaligned with who I am as a person and what my skills are, I immediately just look for someone else and say, hey, I got a real opportunity. This is something that we need. It needs to be important. People get lost in the unimportant.
Oh, yeah.
If it's important, you just simply find that teammate or that person that's ready for a challenge, a stretch assignment, and you're like, hey, this needs to be done. Someone could probably argue it's my job, but I'm not good at it. Mm-hmm. So rather than screw it up, I think you'd be great at it.
Yeah.
What do you think? And 9 times out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10, they're like, you think I'm good at something? Right? You just put a huge emotional deposit in that person's, trust with you. And you say, yeah, you're better than me at this.
Right.
And now you got a whole company that, looks at their leadership team and they're like, man, my leaders actually appreciate me, which is the most important. It's the only way they'll stay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I love that. The one tip while we roll out of this is if you're looking to stand out in your company, one of the things you said early in the journey was leaning into the hard things.
Yep.
Don't avoid them. Raise your hand. If you want to quote unquote show off, volunteer yourself.
Yep.
For stretch assignments, like you just said, I'll do that.
Yep.
I'll take it on. I'll try it out.
Yep. You ever heard the "that's not my job" syndrome?
Mm-hmm.
That is a killer. I think it's a killer for advancement. If I had a magic wand, I would just wave it. And everyone who thinks they're actually helping themselves by focusing too much on what they're comfortable doing, they're hurting themselves. If someone in the management structure comes to you with an idea of an activity to do that helps the company and you don't prioritize that high, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You're crazy.
Because that that has their focus.
Yep.
Everything else you are doing, you don't know.
Yep.
That one, it's a fact.
Yep.
Okay, so how do you juxtapose that idea against, and you have kids that are, what did you say, 16, 15?
I have a 16, 15, and a 10.
Boy.
Boy.
Yeah. So this, I don't know for sure, but I suspect this is really going to resonate, is
sure.
with them, they're being driven to highly specialize at age 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
No. You don't get to play X. You only play Y. If you ever want to have a shot at playing Y, you play Y.
Yeah.
You're a math kid. You need to be in all the double, extra, triple hard math classes and have all the college credits before you graduate high school. And
yep.
We're driving our kids into these pigeonholes.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they hit the workplace, they show up saying, hey, I'm the best widget maker. And they're like, cool, but I need you to be good at all these other things. Like, what's the juxtaposition of those two things? Or do you see these kids that are driven into these pigeonholes showing up in the workplace like ill-equipped for their jobs? Or I don't really know where I'm going, but
sometimes with the interns, sometimes. I'll tell you, we have had a great year this year finding a very broad set of skills in the interns. People are young. Go to the kids. I just tried to replicate my upbringing with my sons. And so expect a lot. Engage them in things that maybe people aren't engaging their kids in. Like I have this old Navigator that my oldest son's now going to drive. We called it white chocolate because it had this silky smooth, paint. It was so fancy. He names it Abraham Lincoln now, I guess, because Lincoln. I don't know, but the radiator went out. Yeah, I mean it's Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, it took a second.
The radiator went out. Okay, so most people probably at my station, whatever that means, would probably take it to the shop. Well, I put the big 10 out over the truck, and I was like, guess what we're doing today, boys?
Fixing it.
We're replacing this radiator.
Mm-hmm.
The oil needs to be changed. The tires need to be rotated. The yard needs to be mowed. Something in the house needs to be repaired. I try to get the kids that Renaissance experience. And it's not great. I'm not perfect. My kids have made bonehead mistakes. My wife and I cry sometimes. We're like, oh my God, how have we failed? How have we failed our kids? We're such bad parents, just like everyone else. But I think that's what I'm trying to do. But yes, I will echo. There is absolutely a focus on STEM in our household. I've tried to convince my sons, engineering is a great career. And that's why, because I want them out of the house at 18.
Yeah, right.
And I want them to have a job.
Right.
I'm not gonna be the guy, who keeps my kid on the insurance to 26 just because the Affordable Care Act allows it. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, you have to go produce. Men have a responsibility. Women have a responsibility too, but I don't have any women as children. So men have a responsibility. You get out in society and you help society. You cannot be a leech. You have to produce. Your value is in your production. I've taught them that from a very young age. And I'm like, and if you can't produce, you ain't going nowhere. So you better learn something. And I don't care. Maybe they won't be engineers. If they're an auto mechanic, great. People need auto mechanics.
For sure.
They're a welder. I don't care. But you better do something and provide value to this earth because you're worthless otherwise.
You said there's a lot of times I hear these like themes across guests. And I've heard a couple here, but I'll highlight one in this moment. Hold the flashlight. Who was it that said hold the flashlight? You remember that?
I do.
I should remember this.
Parsons.
Yes. He's talking about, he was growing up and his dad would always like, hey, we're changing the radiator.
Yep.
Come stand here and hold the flashlight. Became like the moniker, at least through that episode, I think probably for his childhood of learning and growing and being taught by his dad of like, no, I'm not going to take it to the shop.
Yep.
We're going to fix it. Yep. Hold the flashlight.
Yep. I think the only difference between, I don't know how old this gentleman is, but the next phrase to that was, you look like someone who never had to hold the flashlight for your father, which means you got screeched at for not holding it right. So all I said with my kids was, I'm going to try to just not scream and yell at them when they make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I will, though, talk them to death. We're going to have one of those. So I teach them critical thinking about all these things. So we talk about, okay, you did that, son. What were you trying to accomplish? Now, inside, I want to scream at him like, hey, you idiot.
Right.
What are you doing?
I'm one answer from strangling you.
Right.
But that's here.
But so I'm trying to have a more peaceful thinking household where they can actually develop awareness.
Yeah.
So if they screw something up, all right, son, you're getting the talk. Let's go. What were you thinking? What were you hoping to achieve? And 90% of the time, it's, I don't know.
Sure.
Kids. But we're trying.
My funny around that, same for me. I in terms of like trying to talk sense into them, I often wonder if I've like over rotated and maybe we need to just hit them with a stick more often. But there was a moment where like when we needed to talk about something, I would grab them and be like, hey, you want to go for ice cream? and we would go eat ice cream and then sit and talk. And then one day I had picked up William from something, my 15-year-old, and I was like, hey, man, you want to go get some ice cream? Because really, I just wanted ice cream. And he goes, oh, no.
He gotcha.
What is it now? And I was like, I just wanted to get some ice cream, man.
Yep.
And so that was, anyway, funny, like, yeah, we're going to talk. And sometimes the talk is worse.
Yep.
Like, stop.
Can you just hit me?
Can you just hit me and get it over with?
Yep. Well, there comes a point to where you're going to injure yourself. If I tried to spank one of my older sons, they both play football.
Yeah, you're toast.
I'm toast, and I tell them all the time, I'm like, you are never allowed to team up on me.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys team up on me, I'm going to fight Dad dirty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm like, watch it. But I think the days of corporal punishment is what they would call it. Maybe there's a place for it, you know, the biblical, spare the rod, spoil the child. But I think you can teach people how to be smart, you know, maybe in balance. Still got to have that authority. But I never liked being screamed at, and I just didn't want my kids, you know, to be screamed at. It, you know, I turned out pretty good, so it worked, right? I might not have liked it, but it worked.
Yeah.
So
I've even had this fun little conversation. It was with Hayes this week, which was like he was doing something that I wasn't appreciative of, and had tried to gently reprimand him, and it wasn't working. And so I raised my voice a little bit, and it wasn't working. And so we went yesterday, and I was in the car with him. We were coming back from eating hot dogs, and by the way, Korean hot dog.
What?
Yeah, okay. Google that. You're welcome. But in any event, in the car, I was just telling him, I was like, we're in a spot. I told Hayes, I was like, we're in a spot right now where what I want to do is hit you. I'm very frustrated, and you're not minding, and it feels like it's spare the rod, spoil the child time. But that's not what I want to do. Like, help me understand where the disconnect is.
Sure.
You need it. Here's where I am as a default. Help me understand the disconnect. And then we had a really interesting conversation around, like, I was like, yeah, you're right. I just sometimes forget. And, you know, like a dialogue derivative of my perception of my inclination to be like, I've had enough of that, you know, that sort of thing.
Did it resonate? Did it work?
Yeah. And we got home, and I was like, hey, you know that thing we talked about? Could you do it, please? And he was like, yeah, sorry, I'll take care of it right now. Done.
Perfect. You're a great dad.
I'm not. I'm just saying, like, in
that moment.
Yeah, patting yourself on the back, Jeff. I'm just saying, like, in these moments, I wrestle with the same things that everyone wrestles with, and wonder sometimes if I've over-rotated, and just kind of chatting it out here.
It all works out in the wash. That's why there's therapy.
Yeah,
you know?
I do say that sometimes too. You'll work that out in therapy one day, but whatever.
Yep. I love it.
So I don't have much on this serving piece other than I want to start with kudos. Because Melanie's like, I think Tony would be an awesome addition to the board. Fact. Thanks for contributing every single month and engage. Like, just standing up there and then seeing the blank face and you just move on to the next one, that's a bummer.
Yep.
I want to hear from people.
Yep.
We all do, because it generates discussion.
Yep.
You're consistent and crush it. So thanks for being on.
I'm trying. I'm actually trying to put you on the spot.
Do it.
You might think I'm trying to help you, Kevin, but I'm like, boy, that was he's not thinking. No, I am the same way as you. So I would run our standard staff meetings constantly, and it's the same way. You're looking at a CI balls, and you're like, I'm putting my heart into this. Can somebody fart, breathe, burp something and let me know anyone's listening? You know, it's like mic check. Hello, is this thing on? So when I do a board thing, I'm not, well, maybe I am. I still suffer from some ego issues. You know, sometimes you get on a board, you're like, I'm on a board, you know, whoa, look at me. When I get on a board, it's a servant mind. If I can't bring value, get me off the board and let some other guy or gal have a chance. So that's all I'm doing, Kevin. And with all the stuff I participate in, you know, people ask me kind of, what's your epithet? You know, what do you want people to think about you? And I was like, if somebody knows me, I made their life better somehow.
For sure.
You know, that's what I want people to know about me. And so on the board, I'm really looking at that stuff and trying to figure out, these are real challenges we have at TEXO. You know, I have a unique skill set. If I don't give you all of my skill set, what good am I?
That's the purpose of surrounding that room with all-stars, because we want to hear.
Yeah,
you have ideas that I can't think of, and there's 30 other people in there that are wired a little bit different than the next person. It's huge. Yep. Once you start seeing, well, we build on this idea, then this idea, and this idea. Yep. But you're right. I don't know if it's like an ego thing for me or just a general bummer when you lay all this out and you're like, any discussion? And people are like, nope. Scrolling through, and you're like, all right. Well, let's move on. Yeah. But there is a ton of things that we need to tackle in this industry. and through the association. There's no doubt.
Well, you guys are building a culture at the board now, and I said on the board some time back, and it felt like whoever was in charge was just telling us what was going on, and nobody just
no mas,
and building a culture of, even if it's just the time, I haven't said in a board meeting, but just the two of you guys talking and chatting, and when the next person comes in, they're like, oh, we're working and solving, and it might not be solved immediately like this season, but man, y'all are building a season and a culture and of change and it all feeling different. So keep up that work for sure.
Thank you.
And it moves the needle. And so the other thing I had kudos and curiosity. I said my two. In my stalking, I could only find that you ran for Richardson ISD Board of Trustees. I could not find whether you got it or not.
No, I did not get it. I actually, it's interesting. 2 years ago, that was 2021. School in Richardson, it's a fantastic district. The teachers are great. The administrator is great. The board's great. I did not win. A woman by the name of Timmy, whose son is the famous basketball player, Drew Timmy. She won, and she's way better than me. Way better. I probably would have been off that. So shout out to you for winning. But what we were seeing was my two older sons were getting into an older age, and my youngest son was in second grade going to third grade. And, school should be teaching, how to think, reading, writing, and arithmetic. They were doing some things that there's this whole thing called social emotional learning, connecting cultures. It was a DEI effort. Okay. It was a DEI effort. And yes, we need DEI, anything we can do to make things more fair and better for everyone. I'm all for that, right? I'm an immigrant. Okay. My wife's Chinese. I got biracial kids. So I know, I get it. I totally get it. But we fortunately were able to review a lot of it. And I was reading things that I just didn't like. And one of the things that kind of jumped out was, people will learn to be just racist, I don't know a better way, or prejudiced, kind of on their own. Maybe they have someone that influences them. And it's not a good thing. I'm not saying, people, hey, you be a good racist. I'm not saying that. It's awful. But when you take a child and you introduce concepts of racism where they didn't exist, and then you try to undo what you just introduced. I don't know if you guys are following this logic, but 100%. This is exactly what they did. And I'll never forget, there was one of these social emotional learning skits. Tommy and Cindy are playing ball, and Cindy's grandmother wants to play ball with them. But Tommy thinks that Cindy's grandmother's old and can't really play hard and won't be good at sports. So they don't let her play. What should Tommy have done? And I'm like, you're going to introduce ageism and sexism to my kindergartner and then expect them to think their way through what Tommy should have done? I mean, maybe I'm overly analytical, but I'm like, you might as well, tell like a dirty joke. There's this guy, and this guy in a bar, and pick your racist theme, and then look at the kid and be like, why doesn't that Italian love spaghetti? And it's like, well, I'm trying to be very careful here. So I'm nailing it on walking a fine line here. But why the hell would we tell a kid that Italians love spaghetti and then ask him, but you don't think that about Italians, do you, little Timmy? No, why don't you just not go there?
Yeah.
Why don't you just provide opportunities for people of different backgrounds to actually learn about each other and learn that, yes, there are some affects that are attributed to our race and to our culture. Some are positive, some are negative. We talked earlier about, Super Mario, positive Italian stereotype, the mafia. Negative Italian stereotype. Now, should the whole Anti-Defamation League was created about this history. But should I sit there and every time someone mentions The Godfather, explain to them how their bias towards immigrants is celebrated in Hollywood and how tragic that is?
Yeah, if you want to be a buzzkill.
Yeah, you want to be a real downer, because it's not true. It's fake. And that's why I ran, at the time.
What a good why.
Yeah, and I wanted to make change, and I wanted to get in there, and I'll tell you, Frank, I wanted to get rid of the DEI department. DEI is great. It's necessary. But the problem with DEI is there isn't enough DEI in DEI. Yes, it's a circular reference. Here we go. And I will never be able to run for political office here after I tell you what I'm about to tell you. But I've participated in the DEI stuff. All last year, I participated in the Great Organizations Y group. They do this thing called Elevate Her. It's fantastic. It's a great program. But these programs draw the same kind of people. They draw people that are convinced that there's structural racism. They're convinced that the world is already biased and awful. And so it's kind of like hive-minded. There aren't a lot of fresh ideas. There's a lot of great people, and this is not a criticism of any of this stuff. It's all very important. But there needs to be more guys like us, the stated enemy in this whole thing, the white middle-aged male, because we have more ideas that I think can probably move diversity forward. And so for Richardson, what I was hoping to accomplish was, how can we look at DEI and the DEI group and help it? Because having a whole group full of people that are convinced that this is what we're supposed to be doing, that's not diversity of thought.
Right.
That's only going to get us so far. A second thing, I wanted to represent the construction industry. So the bond was up for election. It had passed, and it's funny, we're talking DEI. I don't think that minority set-asides for projects are a great thing. If they are, they're too low. So one of the things I wanted to do in Richardson was really convince them to look at how their contracting is for the bond and try to get some I hate the word equality, but I just have to say it because I don't know some equal opportunities and results to where if you're building, a $650 million, I forgot it was $750 million bond, I wanted 50% of that to go to the local small women and minority-owned firms.
Yeah.
Whether it be through subcontracting or it be through prime contracting. I thought, hey, that's perfect. It's DEI because we're providing opportunities for success, and it's realistic. They have to earn it. We're not going to claim that, and I wasn't up there saying that Richardson is structurally racist with their contracting methods. I'm like, no, you just, someone has to make the decision to say, hey, we're going to up the minority participation, or we're going to we're going to have outreach. We're going to try to get more, because there's a ton of local firms around here.
Totally.
Dallas, it's Texas was Mexico. Everyone remembers that, right? Texas was one of the first places that allowed freed slaves to actually work and live. Nobody knows that about Dallas. Texas is fantastic when it comes to providing real opportunity for the folks that got a real bad shake in the world.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to kind of grow on it. So take those two things, Venn diagram those suckers. That's why I got murdered in the election. I got third out of 3.
Yeah.
But there were 1,100 people or something that voted for me, and they walk up to me all the time. And I think it kind of sparked just an interest in, okay, what is the school really doing? There's a lot of great people. The board is fantastic. They care. These are people, teachers, they care. How can we just make it so much better for them?
Yeah.
And give them a different set of maybe ideas to run from. And there we go.
So,
innovation.
Man, I got a lot of thoughts there too, as per usual.
As a consumer of Richardson ISD.
Yeah. So where do you live then?
Our kids are in the Pierce pattern. So there was Brentfield.
So do you
Park
have
Hill
a 15-year-old at Pierce?
I have a 15 and a 16-year-old at Pierce.
Yeah, I have Williams 15 at Pierce.
What's your last name?
Shirtleff. He plays basketball and runs cross country.
I guarantee. Did he go to Park Hill?
Yes.
My son's name is Luke Casagrande. He had to have known.
I know.
Shirtlift sounds familiar.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to put this. Yeah. I don't know Luke, but I've not put Luke and Casagrande together until right now. I know who your son is.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
okay.
small world.
So Williams at Pierce, we had a whole, you're speaking my DEI frustration, and we don't need to belabor it here, but we had our own around that same time, wow, okay. Yeah. All the things you just said. So I won't say anything more than that other than that.
You may have a future political career.
Because I didn't blow it all up just now.
But I mean, even when I was
you
campaigning,
blew it up in college. Don't worry about it.
Even when I know if they check my criminal record, even when I was campaigning, I remember talking with some folks, and I just straight out said, I said, they were like, "What do you think about DEI and racism?" I was like, "I think what people are calling racism today is not real racism, and I think it's a shame because there is real racism, and we need to focus on that." And they were looking at me like, "Who's this guy? How dare you?" And I'm like, "No, I'm serious. There's literally people." I was raised, racism means you think your race is better than someone, and therefore you treat that race with indignity. You defile them almost like a caste system. And the result is that there's people that their lives suck. They can't get a fair shake in the world. That's not that's not the situation. There isn't a single law on the books that judges you on color. There's not. We've fixed all that. But we have people that are still racist.
Totally.
So why don't we, instead of pretending that everybody's racist and everything's racist, which, if everybody wins, nobody wins.
Nobody
If
wins.
everybody's racist, nobody's racist. Let's really key in on how do we solve this issue, get some more experience where people of different cultures can play together and learn about each other, and that seems to be too simple-minded. Maybe I am dumb. Maybe that's why I'm not in a DEI department somewhere. But it just makes sense to me. My kids have friends of every single race, religion, and otherwise, and they seem to be just fine. And they're biracial. And Asians are a real easy target. Italians are a real easy target, and they're doing fine, right? I mean.
Yeah, it's a I don't want to minimize any of it because it is a complicated topic.
It is
for sure, and tackling it feels, from my vantage point, like just a minefield. And no matter, just every angle is like, well, that's wrong with that people. So my fear is that in that mindset that I sometimes have results in, then I won't do anything, then I won't say anything because I don't. Right, so that's my wrestle. Is just like, man, there's something, we're working on it. There's a lot of different opinions. And I feel like every time I have one of those groups disagrees with it. And I was like, okay, how do I navigate?
We're conditioned into not helping.
Well, at the TEXO board, you show up as your authentic you, and I will call you awesome.
Thank you.
There you go.
Pin it.
Will do.
Pin it. All right, so kids, then we'll kind of wrap ourselves out here. But kids, family, we talked a lot about your wife, not a lot, a little bit about your wife along the way. Didn't realize that Luke's in high school with William. Football for sure. Does he run track too?
He does. So Luke is a stud.
He's fast.
I'm so jealous of my kids. I tell them both. I don't know how this is going to come over, but I'm going to say it anyways. If I looked like you when I was your age, I would have never had my shirt on. And I'm like, boys, you don't get it. You do not get it. You guys got it. You should, but they're so shy and they're timid. Luke runs track. He actually does the long jump is where he has a lot of success.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Funny kid. He doesn't want to do it. Luke doesn't like a lot of attention. So in junior high, didn't want to do it. Coaches convinced him it's an off-season sport. He's a football guy, linebacker, running back. They convince him to do it. He half-asses it. He wins district in junior high. Okay. High school, freshman in high school. He misses half the season because he doesn't want to run track. His big brother runs track. Big brother's on varsity. Big brother fast, and Andrew is like the athlete's athlete. He set the Pierce record for vertical jump.
Oh, wow.
He did 38.5 inches vertical jump.
Oof.
He's a Asian. We call him Chi-Italian. He's Asian-Italian. 5'7". He's built like a brick, but I mean, he's athletic. So Luke doesn't he competes, but he doesn't compete. Yeah. We convince him because the coach is like, you got to do long jump. He gets into it for 2 meets. Goes to district. He wins district in long jump.
Oh, wow.
At the high school level now. And he blew people. I mean, he outjumped him by seven or so inches. So they're fantastic. They're all in the AP courses. Yeah. They do very well. Andrew is a stud. Plays football, running back, made varsity as a sophomore. Runs track, was a track MVP. They're sweet kids. We're Catholic. We go to All Saints Catholic Church. They're all confirmed. They're teenage boys. They're interested in things that, we're not interested in. But great. So then my little guy is Gabriel. He didn't get into the team sports. He's a swimmer.
Is he at Park Hill?
No. So we actually, when all this stuff was going on at Richardson ISD, we pulled him out. My wife homeschools. I've been blessed since, 2019. No, how long ago? The trauma has blinded my history here. 2011 or 12, my wife, fortunately, she retired early and worked the hardest job in the world, which is being a mom and a housewife. And so she homeschools them. So Gabriel was in Brentfield.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're driving to Florida, mañana, bright and early, to go soak up some beach. We're going to stop in Natchitoches, Louisiana, which if no one's been there, it's beautiful. Tiny little town on a river. They got fried pies. I love the fried pies. Then we stop in Mobile. We always go and get our pictures taken at the USS Alabama. We're big supporters of the military. My wife's father was a Green Beret. I told you about, all the military stuff. So we love the military. And then we head over there for beach, pool.
You ever stayed the night at the Beau Rivage on the way?
No. Where is that?
I think it's in Biloxi, I think.
Oh, the South Route. Okay.
Yeah.
We haven't taken the South Route.
Yeah, it's a gym.
It's a gym?
I mean, yes.
Oh
No.
my gosh.
Yeah.
The Boulevage?
Beau Rivage.
Beau Rivage.
Yeah. It's like a fancy like coastal hotel around that day.
Okay, it's the fancy schmancy.
Yeah, as a I'm sure it's on a boat, but it has like a casino in the back of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, maybe we'll take the south route. I like that. One year we drove through New Orleans.
You mean Nolans?
Nolans. Last anecdote. New Orleans, beautiful city. It's horrible what's happened with the hurricane and all the civil unrest. I mean, it really doesn't look like it. It boards on everything, up and down. So the World War II Museum is the best museum in the world in New Orleans. Shout out. Go do it with your kids. It's fantastic. Interactive. God, how much time do we have?
Infinite.
Okay, so I'll tell two stories. One, we were at the World War II Museum, and we were going through, and they have the Pacific Theater, and they have the European Theater. We were in the Pacific Theater, and we were watching a vignette on the Battle of Midway. And my wife and I are watching it, and the Battle of Midway didn't go great for the United States, and we actually, some would argue we won it by the grace of God. We could have very well lost the Battle of Midway. Well, halfway through, my wife's like, I cannot believe the Japanese, they won that one. Because the lead up was so strong, that we really think the Americans lost the Battle of Midway. And I looked at her, I was like, Danielle, we won World War II.
Yeah.
we won the Battle of Midway. And she's like, she's very smart. She was like, I was just so caught up in the story. I thought for sure.
Yeah.
I was like, so fun story there. Second,
you know what she needs is one of those T-shirts that says "back-to-back World War champs" or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Battle of Midway winners.
Winners.
I had the bright idea at the time. I wanted my sons to soak up New Orleans, Nolans, and so I had the bright idea that as long as it's in the middle of the day, we could walk Bourbon Street. Oh yeah, my wife looked at me. This is another one of those driving back from Michigan moments where I'm like, Tony, but I convinced her. My wife is just the best thing that ever happened to me. Danielle, I love you. Thank you so much for putting up with my idiocy. I convince her. So we're basically off of Bourbon Street. We walk around the corner. I got the kids in tow. We make it 10 steps. It's a sad situation. I'm not glorifying this, but there was a homeless person that was naked, eating out of a garbage can, which is sad in its own right. I prayed for that person. It's an awful thing. But then there's the shop that has all of the shirts with show me your stuff. And then my wife grabs me. I mean, we made it 10 feet and she's like, is this what you thought we were going to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you're right. We just turned right back around. We made it 10 steps into Bourbon Street. And I was like, boys, probably should have done this when you were older. And my wife's like, no, you are never bringing these kids back to Bourbon Street. So I could have survived. I remember going to New Orleans when I was in college on a spring break. But that's more appropriate.
Yeah. Head there for your bachelor parties.
Yeah, that's a bachelor party thing. But
what's the strip in Nashville called where all the honky tonks are?
Yeah, is it University or Broadway or it's
Broadway?
Yeah,
I think it's Broadway. It's just not the same, but similar story. We took the kids to Nashville. We were walking down Broadway, and there's a lady who this is 10 o'clock in the morning. She had too much of all of it.
Yeah, just
passed out on the ground, had puked herself. And sweet Stella, we walked by her, and she's like, "I don't think that lady feels very well." And I was like, yeah,
that is correct.
That is correct.
Flu. She's got the
flu.
Kids are so wonderful. Yeah. So innocent. How old was Stella at the time?
Probably 8, 7,
I love
8.
the innocence of children.
Yes.
They're wonderful.
Well, this is how we end.
Yes.
This is how we end.
Just abruptly?
No.
See ya.
No, we're gonna go book.
Okay,
books. If you've ever read more than one,
I have read one book, and it is Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think if people would just read that book and take it to heart, it would change a lot of things. Because what the book does is it teaches you are not the most important thing in the world. If you make everyone else feel like they are around you, you will get a lot done in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, I didn't know it before I read it. When I read it, I said, oh, gosh, I think I should have been born in the 20s. Probably not. Wasn't great back then, whole depression thing. But this guy knew what he was talking about. And it's a easy read. It's written anecdotally, so it's not hard to read. Love that book.
Well, okay. Good one. And The One Big Thing. We wrap it up with...
I think I had to write this down. Let me see. What's my one big thing? Okay. I wrote this down.
Hit us with it.
The key to great decision making, which is ultimately what leadership is to take your well-being, your biases, your desires completely out of the equation. That's the big thing. If you can accomplish that, take yourself out of every decision, you have a prayer in hell of developing a good team that actually believes they matter. If you accidentally, because it's hard as humans, keep yourself like, we're talking about XYZ, what's in it for me, you'll never be a real leader. You got to take the what's in it for you and know that if the team wins, you're going to ultimately win.
Byproduct.
Yep.
I love it.
There you go.
Well, I will see you next week on 30A.
Yeah.
Well, I guess last week, actually, because of the recording.
Yeah, we skipped next week.
We skipped
which
next
is
week.
last
Okay.
week.
Yeah. So when you listen to this, I will have seen you last week on 30A.
Very good.
Thanks
yeah,
for hanging
of course.
out,
This is
chatting.
great. Thanks, guys.
Awesome conversation.